Okay, Rabbi, you're fine.
Okay.
Okay,
And
we're recording.
what's on my screen blocking me? Maybe not. Okay. Very good. So we start?
Yes, welcome everybody to our annual Pesach workshop with Rabbi Eidlitz. We're delighted that you are all joining. I think it's made it very convenient for everybody that it's on Zoom. So without any further ado, we're going to introduce Rabbi Eidlitz. If you have any questions, let's do it through chat, just send your questions, and at the very end, we'll present them to Rabbi Eidlitz.
Rabbi Eidlitz, there's some people waiting to be admitted in your waiting room.
Everybody is admitted.
Someone just told me she's not.
Well, everybody's been admitted because I'm admitting them, Jerry. So.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Jerry, I just got in.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, would everybody please mute themselves?
Situation, so they got the licensing through.
Okay, 1 second. Why can't everybody has to mute themselves? Okay, Rabbi, you're on.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Definitely different than at one point bringing this cases, but it is a pleasure to be able to reach everyone this way. And I understand in the past we reached more people through Zoom, a bit more convenient. This year, Pesach, there are a few things to be aware of that a bit have changed. One, primarily, of course, that it's Shemitah. Now, some people have voiced a concern that since it's Shemitah in Eretz Yisrael, they won't buy any products from Israel, and that would be a mistake. Besides the fact that we wish to support products from Eretz Yisrael, there's an issue that Shemitah does not affect what we're getting. Let's take matzah, for instance. The Holy Land Shmura matzah from Israel, if this would be a true Shemitah product, the halacha would be that when we're done with any piece, all the crumbs have to be put and left to rot. Since there's a special kedusha, the holiness in it, we're not allowed to just discard it. And that's the same thing of any fruits, of any other product that contains Shemitah products. When the OU or other reliable agents put their hashgacha, what they mean is, yes, this is from Israel. Either the ingredients are grown in the Negev, not halachically part of Israel, or it's from overseas. One way or another, it's not a Shemitah product. So all the products that we're finding with hashgacha, such as OUP, do not have Shemitah concerns whatsoever. Even the wines that they send out are not what's called otzer basting, that there is a way to obtain, to sell Shemitah wine. The hashgachas, the large agencies, are not using that wine. If they did, there would be various difficulties. In particular, we'd have to leave it. We couldn't throw it out, even if there's just a bit left. The reason they don't do that in general, one isn't supposed to send outside of Israel, the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, any product grown during Shemitah. So that's not a concern. It's not a concern when it comes to Shemitah. It's like everything. If it has a good certification, it's fine. And you don't have to worry about it. The one product in particular, when we've spoken in the past and have come in, people have looked for maple syrup. So we have Adirondack, which is a good one. This is a Chaf KP of Hadar with a good hashgacha on it. But there is a bit of an easier route. This is just a Ralph's different ones. This one is a Ralph's pure maple syrup. The OU has said that any pure maple syrup with a plain OU is fine for Pesach. Any and all of their plain. That means no additives, obviously no flavoring added to it and so on. But if it's just a pure maple syrup, then it's not an issue. The drinks are, we have again this year readily available Coke and all of us. There's the ingredients, and keep in mind that the ingredients are not true. The ingredients say on them corn syrup often. That's not true. It's just too expensive not to change all of the labels. So all they change is the cap. If it has no UP on the cap, it's fine. That means it really is certified for Pesach. And you don't have to, that's true for the regular, that's true for the diet Coke as well. The cap will be the correct information. The label on the side that with ingredients is incorrect, and they file a special permit just for Pesach to have incorrect information, really contradictory information during that time. There is, if you hear of some people who don't drink Diet Coke, that's because Diet Coke is sweetened with aspartame. Aspartame is a kitnios that was processed. Since it was processed, and it started as kitnios, some people don't like using it, and some cautious agencies won't use it. The OU does use it because it's what they call kitnios shenishtanu, a rather new term over the past couple of decades, that it is kitnios has changed. But the reality is that, and most people do use it. If someone says they don't want to, that is their choice. Keep in mind that oil, we have so many choices of oil today. It used to be that peanut oil was commonly used in the 50s and 60s, and Ramosha said that he would not say not to use it. If people want to use it, they could use it. But the commonly accepted minhag is that even though peanut is not a legitimate kitnios or legume, but it's considered like one, and therefore it's not used today. This one, this jasmine gourmet, has an hashgacha that says on it kitnios. It's only for people who use kitnios. The reality is those people who have the minhag use peanut oil, and to rely on that means it can do so. But it is certified, they're saying, only for people who actually use kitnios. Then we get the certified oils, a pure vegetable oil, a sesame oil, and a cottonseed oil rather, not sesame. The cottonseed oil is not, that's debatable in its validity, but there are different traditions minhagim for it. The minhag of Eretz Yisrael is to consider cottonseed kitnios because it's grown right near wheat fields. The minhag of the rest of the world is not to consider it kitnios. So therefore you have a cottonseed oil with a good hashgacha, the CRC P, and then you have the Manischewitz OUP, which is pure vegetable oil. So that in theory would help that those people who are coming from Eretz Yisrael have the minhag not to eat a cottonseed, not just cottonseed oil, would be able to use vegetable oil. That would be helpful if not for the fact that it says in ingredients cottonseed oil. The vegetable oil is also cottonseed oil. It's the same thing, and therefore it really doesn't help. If a person has a guest from Eretz Yisrael that doesn't, their minhag is not to use cottonseed oil, there are other oils, or a person could use, of course, one of the alternatives, such as extra virgin olive oil or coconut oil, where applicable. The coconut oil, all of the, according to the OU, all of their virgin. That's not extra virgin. It doesn't exist with coconut oil. All the virgin coconut oils with a plain OU without a P are fine for Pesach. All the extra virgin olive oils, such as a Bertolli and so on, that are without flavoring, without additives, just plain extra virgin olive oil with the OU are fine for Pesach as well. But again, due to the refining in the process, the oils, the olive oil needs to be extra virgin. What they call today the grade virgin olive oil is no longer acceptable. That is cooked, processed, and there's machinery issues at the very least. And so it has to be the extra virgin. And then we've got the virgin coconut oils that also help us. So those are great. In spray, there's the Pompeian grapeseed oil with the star K. And again, that has just a plain star K, not a P. It doesn't need it, and it's fine. It is, you may want to go online, by the way. The conscious agencies are getting a little more sophisticated and I think improving in their communications. The CRC, it's online, crcweb.org has an outstanding publication for Pesach, though you, of course, has an incredible amount of information at ou.org. The OK has, that's oukosher.org. The OK at OK.org. And of course, the star K has a great deal, star-k.org. That these, they don't all agree. You'll find they don't always agree on everything, which is okay. Based on their research, certain things are a little bit different. This year, for instance, sugar. Plain white sugar of any type. According to the star K, and according to the CRC in Chicago, they're fine, much as always. The OU over the past 2 weeks has had a little bit of a unsurety. They're just not sure what to do with the regular. So they've listed ones that they know that have no additives. They're not sure of the process if it is an issue. And generally, though, it is accepted that any white sugar is okay in the United States. The brown sugar, it depends a little bit differently. And then the brown, there are different types of brown sugar. There's this brown sugar, and then let's say CNH brown sugar. There's brown, all sugar is brown when you first mill it. But after milling, and a less expensive way is to add a caramel color to it. If the caramel color was added, that's a problem. That can be a kidneys issue, and therefore the brown needs hashkafa. In our area, it's really quite simple. We have CNH everywhere. Both the white and the brown have a OKP on them. They are always kosher the Pesach, and therefore it's not really an issue for us to pick up sugar. It's no more expensive than the rest of the year. That includes a sugar like a turbinado or a pure sugar. Any of the pure sugars are fine. We don't have to be concerned for Pesach if they're, but again, the brown sugar is maybe an issue, and we should get with the hashkafa for Pesach. And if it's a powdered sugar, a vanilla sugar, that definitely contains additives and needs a special hashkafa for Pesach. That is not good with that. When it comes to nuts, we use a great deal on Pesach. I'd like to clarify that the nuts have to be that they are pure. So if we have not toasted, not roasted, not blanched, just plain nuts such as these, and we know it says on the almonds, whole shell, that's all that's in this product. And the same thing with pecans, if it is half or wholes, then they're okay to use. They do not need a shop for Pesach, they're fine. However, since the pecans emit a bit of a toxic oil when they are cut into pieces, then, and they're treated to deal with that oil, then the pecans, once they are pieces, do need a shop for Pesach. Other than that, they are fine. That's according to the consensus of many of the kosher sages. Some even would allow the pieces. When it comes to cut up mushrooms like this, if you can see just a plain bowl of cut up mushrooms, they are fine for Pesach, whether they are dried or whether they are regular sun dried. The plain ones are fine. Drying fruit remains somewhat of a challenge. It depends on how they're drying it. Different things are dried in different ways. Most of the dried fruit we have today is put outside, dried in the sun, but unfortunately, they put powder, usually flour, on top of it to keep the insects off. That's a problem. That, of course, would make it pumice, and therefore, those do need hashgacha. Plain raisins without additives, plain dates without additives, this is Hadley or the different types, are fine to use for Pesach. Those don't have an issue. So these types of dates, if a person would want to use this, there's absolutely no additives and they're just sun dried. That is absolutely fine, fine to use for Pesach. We mentioned sugar. When it comes to salt, there's also many types of salt. There's the plain, there's a sea salt. This one is a plain, a Hain, or the OU. It says this salt does not supply iodine, a necessary ingredient, necessary nutrient. It doesn't, it's not coated with it. And then there's also a Himalayan sea salt, and there's regular salts of different types that have either iodine or not. The difference between the regular salt, Leslie salt, Morton salt, is if it's, there are two things to look for. If it's a regular salt, it means from a mine, and in the mine, they take out the salt, purify it, and they clean it and dry it and package it. It's completely kosher at that point. If they add iodine, they stick it on with corn syrup. If they don't add iodine, then it's fine for Pesach. If they do add it, then the cornstarch makes it kitnios. Again, the one that is a sea salt is a little bit different. That is just put out in large areas of sea salt, and the sun dries it. It's washed and packaged. And that again has the same difference when is it something that has iodine or not. The difference now to remember between the two salts is if it's a mined salt like Morton's, then it's been cooked. If it's a sea salt, it has not been cooked. That can make a serious difference as far as putting it on a roast on a Shabbos because of a bishul, and that one to discuss with the rabbi how to deal with it. The pink Himalayan salt, this Liara happens to have an OUP on it, but most don't need it. It's the same thing. If it's just a plain salt, then we don't have to be concerned with it. It's a plain salt that can be used, and it absolutely is fine. That's fine for Pesach. The drinks, further drinks beyond the Coke, there are some drinks you'll find in some kosher stores like Western and other places of Sprite and Pepsi, many others. There are available, but those are not made in California. So if they are very expensive, it's because they're bringing it in already made. What the Coke that's made in California is made downtown. It's made, the syrup comes in, the water is from the tap, and the syrup is added to it. The CO2 is local. Everything is done under hashgacha, and therefore we have OUP Coke. But that's all that's being made here. Otherwise, some of it's being made up north, most of it's made on the East Coast. And if they're trucking in whole bottles of soda, obviously we pay for it. Plain water, just plain regular water is okay. Even smart water, even if we have the smart water, that's okay to use. Plain seltzer that's unflavored is okay. So if it's just a seltzer and nothing added to it, that's okay. This seltzer is Tuscanini, and the reason it has hashgacha on it for Pesach, there's a couple of hashgachas, is because it is flavored. And it's flavored, again, flavoring must have hashgacha. On the other hand, a plain seltzer, any company, any type, without additives is fine. Tonic water and club soda are mixtures. These are different things. They have ingredients in them, ingredients that are of a concern, and therefore those would need hashgacha for Pesach. They're not just regular seltzer. Regular seltzer is the one that does not need hashgacha, but these truly would. The wines, well, one more thing on this, that's Perrier. Perrier in the regular, you'll find an OUP, unflavored. Flavored is not hashgacha, they're not good for Pesach. The flavoring is problematic, but the unflavored, including, again, it's the same as the others, and that is fine. When it comes to wine, again, our wines are not Shemitah wines. We don't have to be concerned about that. There's the natural difference between mavushal, not mavushal, cooked and uncooked. So, and even cooked somewhat depends on who's using it. Rav Moshe Feinstein's Zatzal said that at about at 140, 145, in that range, it already is called mavushal because it starts dissipating, becoming steam. The Debetziner and others hold that no, it's got to be a 212. So a Circle K, the OK hashgacha, when it calls a wine mavushal, it's going to be cooked at a higher temperature than the OU wines. Most are comfortable with the psak of Rav Moshe and use any of those wines that say mavushal as mavushal. We have to be a little bit careful. Many good wines are being produced today. We're far from the era of drinking syrup. There are many fine wines that are not mavushal, and one has to be very careful with that. Just as an aside, someone called, was very upset that they went to the winery in Oxnard with that the OU certifies, Herzog Winery, and they were sampling wine, and a definite non-Jew was the server, and it gave them this wine to taste. They liked it, they ordered it, they got it in Ohio, and when it came, it said, no, not mavushal. So they very angrily asked, why is it that a non-Jew is serving to them non-mavushal wine? And the answer is that in Oxnard, they cook the non-cooked wines. They're mavashal them so that they can be able to use the tasting. So that they're very careful what they're doing. They certainly are doing it correctly. It was a non-mavushal wine that was mavushal just for people to taste. There is a wine, there's an organic grape juice. There's all sorts of different wines or grape juice available. Keep in mind that in the plastic bottle, the grape juice is always mavushal. In the glass 50.1 ounce bottle, a regular glass bottle, it is not mavushal ever. And that doesn't matter a whole lot, the name on it. Might say Rashi, might say Mishpacha, might say Kedem, might say a bunch of names on it. But that's right now the standard, that those, unless it's some odd one that would say mavushal, that those are not mavushal for those people who wish to use grape juice for the Dalet Kaisers and rely on that opinion that says that non-mavushal grape juice is wine in the making. And indeed, someone who can have with their company on the table non-mavushal wine, the Rambam considers, non-mavushal grape juice rather, considers quite superior. For that matter, even non-mavushal wine, he considers mavushal because good wines are not mavushal. Today, we have many good wines that are mavushal, so in a wine, it doesn't matter as much. In a grape juice, it would matter quite a bit. The hand sanitizers, the consensus of the posting remains the same, that we can continue to use hand sanitizers. They're not memorap, it's not a problem, even when it's a little bit thick. It's not a problem for Pesach, and they can be used as we wish. Aluminum remains fine. Aluminum products absolutely remain fine. That they, with hashgacha, some have, some don't. If this particular one has an OU on it, which the OU fully agrees is for publicity only. The company feels that they're in particular non-Jews who look for a hashgacha, the OU is highly recognizable, and they feel it's a purer product, a better product, something that has oversight to it, and therefore they put it on. But that doesn't mean that anyone thinks it needs it. The plain pans are plain pans, and they definitely are fine, and they're fine for Pesach as well. That, of course, is true for aluminum foil, which is kosher as is. The parchment paper does need hashgacha always, and the Reynolds is probably one of the easiest ones, but there are many that I've listed as well. There should be at the shul already the pamphlets for Pesach. Otherwise, you can always download it at Kosher Quest. The Reynolds, the cut-right wax paper with the plain OU is kosher all year, and for Pesach as well. It's fine. It's a season, as we know, and the way over the past whatever number of years, that many things are being made non-gebras, that they don't have real wheat in them at all. Cookies, crackers, many imitation things, the cakes. We still have some that are. Now, we have to bear in mind, gebras and non-gebras, where a person has broken matzah that's soaked, not soaked, whether it is that one would eat a type of, the way they make a cake meal is to make matzah, and then after making it into matzah, break it up into very fine particles. Whether one can eat that or not is not an issue of how from a person is. It's an issue of your minhag. The Hasidic minhag primarily is to not eat gebras. The Litvish minhag primarily is yes to eat gebras, including Rosh Yeshivas and Gedolim. And that's really where it's split. Today, commercially, many of the things, most of them, say non-gebras, just simply that this will apply to everyone. Applies to those who have the Hasidic minhag, it applies to those who have the Litvish minhag, and it applies to non-Jews who are celiac or otherwise and want a gluten-free product. That's where most of it's sold for. most of the non-gebrauch noodles and cookies and cakes are being sold to non-Jews who grab it at this time, knowing when Pesach is. It's sent out on their bulletins. This is a time where the Jews put out stuff, to be able to get an Oreo type of cookie that is fine for someone who can't have wheat is a special find. That's where we find the non-gebrauch. It's not a issue of being more religious. One of the more confusing products has been the Joyva marshmallow twist. It used to be years ago that I would right away pass by this product and say, that's not recommended because they use a non-kosher gelatin. That switched years ago when the company applied to the Chafkei, and right around that time, fish gelatin was getting a hold, and they managed to switch to fish gelatin, like the product says now, contains fish gelatin. So the gelatin problem, which was major, went away. And now it's the fish, it's always, including Pesach, fish gelatin. The reason there's no Chafkei, there's Rabbi who certifies it, is because they went to, the company said, look, we'll do Chafkei all year. We're good with that. This gelatin, it's more expensive than a pork gelatin or than a non-kosher, than meat that wasn't slaughtered gelatin, but we'll get it anyway. What they said they're not going to do is replace the cornstarch. The cornstarch they felt is what makes it. So all year they use it. And they said they must use it Pesach as well. And the Chafkei said, fine, I'll tell you what. We'll take off the Chafkei for Pesach, put the other rabbi because it's kitnios, and therefore it can stay kosher. And the product would be good before Pesach for anyone who doesn't want to eat kitnios, and good after Pesach for anyone who, for everyone. It just changed to a little bit different, and the ingredients, whereas they used to read that liquefied leguminous extracts, corn syrup, and so on, that's what they were using. At this point, and the corn syrup was the second ingredient, and then the fish gelatin. Now it says glucose syrup, cane sugar, and so on. They changed the terminology a bit, and they're using cane, so they're helping it some. There still is some corn being used. I still would not recommend it, but it definitely got closer to being acceptable for everybody. Beer must not have been so popular because this is made on ale, different types of beer. There were a couple of them, and they're fading out. This company stopped, period, in doing it. It just apparently making it just for Pesach was a very expensive thing, and they didn't want to do it. The plates and paper, plastic, styrofoam, and so on, paper towels, all of these things, aluminum foils you mentioned, they're all fine for Pesach. Those things are fine. It is better to use one with a pattern like this, but the truth is that none of it's edible, and therefore the OU's policy is to advise all paper and plastic, and a number of other agencies are more cautious and will stick to the thicker ones and not to the plain white paper plates. When it comes to the paper towels, it is better not to use the glue, the first sheet on it, which is glued, not to use the glue hot for something that one is going to eat. A rare occurrence in any case. We should be careful It's wonderful on the one hand, this product, this tradition soup, non-gebrachs, obviously, they're making it non-gebrachs, wonderful for somebody who, again, is celiac or can't tolerate wheat all year. It looks an awful lot like the regular chametz one. That's the danger, and I've seen it sometimes nearby. So be very careful if you're getting their soup for Pesach that it has the OUP on it, which is very clear, and don't use it otherwise. It must have the hashgacha for Pesach. When we get to frozen fruits and vegetables, and we've got many different ones. If it's not a bug issues, again, are major. And as we know, bug issues are more than most halachas, very severe. But those things that are not bug, like the pineapples, and there are other things I have here somewhere here. The mango chunks, which said on it just mango. If it's just mango, that's fine for Pesach. That does not need hashgacha and definitely can be used. On the other hand, the mixed vegetables are blanched in chametz equipment often, as well as an enzyme additive. And these, for sure, in the cleaning process, these definitely cannot be used for Pesach, even the ones such as carrots that are not a kidneys issue, but or for someone who can eat kidneys, nevertheless, those do need hashgacha. For Shemitah in general, the one thing I would look for in our area that I have seen are colored peppers. I've seen it Ralph's and a few other stores where they carry from Israel as product of Israel. No hashgacha, nothing on it. And that would be a problem for a person to have that. Marshmallows sure changed from the years, many years ago, decades ago, when we started talking about products, that most were not good. Now it's very hard to find a not kosher certified, a properly kosher certified marshmallow. Once fish gelatin caught on, it caught on. The price is fine, the usability is fine, it holds, so they use it. This one, interesting, Samyam, OUP, has marshmallow, and outside the marshmallow, coconuts. Now, the coconuts are, this is kind of a nostalgia item, which I assume is why they make it. It used to be when they couldn't make with gelatin, it was too expensive, they used agar. Agar is seaweed. And the seaweed would kind of sort of hold it up, but not very well. So you couldn't touch it. Since you couldn't touch it, they coated the outside with coconut. And it was the only way to have a marshmallow with a good hashgacha on Pesach. That changed, of course, once we started having the gelatin. It's easy to make regular looking, feeling, tasting marshmallows with the fish gelatin. That's usually what they do. But for those who remember the good old days, they still make one type over here, although unnecessary, but it's still available. When it comes to spices, unfortunately today, spices like ice cream, like many products, the companies have become incredibly large. Many of them are companies that's what they do. They emulsify spices. They're not even a spice company. They're a machinery, like we have today for ice cream. 5 ice cream plants in the United States, and everybody makes in those plants. They just use the same ice cream machinery for the Baskin-Robbins and for the Haagen-Dazs and for everybody else. They just make it in that plant. It's an ice cream company. That's what's done. They don't own their own. Many spice companies are like that as well. What that caused is the machinery is multi-use, including for certain things it could be chametz, certain things that are kitnios. So once they already powder it, we do need a hashgacha for Pesach. If it's whole, like these whole peppercorns, or the whole cinnamon sticks, these type of things do not need. There are many whole ones; those don't need hashgacha. When it comes to the all important pets and using feeding dog food, cat food, and so on, I've listed many things that can be used for all the odd pets that people may have. But when it comes to dogs and cats, there's now two hashgachas on tarfus. There is from the CRC, Evinger, and then there is pause from the OU. It's OUP, not kosher, but it's kosher for dogs and cats. Remember, for animals, we can't feed them normally a mixture of milk and meat if the two are kosher species. It's okay to feed a mixture of horse meat and milk, or in theory, camel's milk, which we don't get really with a regular type of meat. But those crossovers are okay. And one could have benefit from that. The other thing that we can't get benefit from, besides milk and meat, is Pesach. And feeding an animal is an absolute obligation. As the Gemara says, when the Tana sat down and he looked at his family and he made kiddush and he was about to drink, and he looked around and he said, Gabal Torah, feed the cow. Because before feeding the cow, he wasn't allowed to drink the wine. A person has to take care of the rachamo. Has rachmanos on the animals, and we can't do salad al. But a person wants to go easy, has now two companies that we can get those types of foods for them that are kosher Pesach, and really not an issue. When it comes to coffee, we know that's a major issue. Coffee, if it's a coffee bean, not decaf. The way to decaf something is either Swiss method, a great way, float off the caffeine, or the normal way, which is alcohol and making it comments. But when a plain coffee bean, just the bean, that's all it is, those are always okay for Pesach. I've listed many of them. Almost all of the ground coffees are okay. Grinding a coffee in Trader Joe's or somewhere becomes problematic because when you pour the beans, someone else could have poured in other beans of a different type that isn't okay, and that definitely would be a problem. But getting it in a sealed container of regular coffee to roast, that's okay. Primarily, that's okay even in K-cups. And I've listed many, but the rule generally is that they're okay. When it comes to instant coffee, though, instant coffee is definitely more of an issue. Since instant coffee is microencapsulated, it comes down a silo of a spray dryer to dry it on the bottom, and as it's going, the microencapsulate is blown onto it, something that will preserve the freshness. That can be a problem, serious problem, what they're using to coat it. And therefore, most instant need hashgacha for Pesach, but there are a few. The Senka is certified kosher Pesach. The Nescafe Taster's Choice, they're different types. And I don't want any kosher store to lose money, but there are some of the ones that I've listed that are fine with plain hashgacha, not for Pesach. And then there are much more expensive ones that we're getting from Israel that got it from England and sent it back over here to make it legal. And those, of course, are quite a bit more expensive. The plain via from Starbucks as well is kosher LePesach, OU certified, and that's fine as well. When it comes to a cocoa, the Hershey's line is always fine. There's a question about the dark one. Many feel that's also okay, but the Hershey line is all right. The plain cocos are not really an issue. When there is an instant tea, Nestea, the regular, not the decaf, but the regular one, that is fine for Pesach, and again, definitely can be used. The Lipton, plain Lipton is fine in the regular and decaf. Sweet Touch-Me has the hashgacha on it. Bigelow says it has to have hashgacha for Pesach. It's available everywhere, but they have on herbal, flavored, and the like that are fine. Sometimes people need an imitation milk, like almond greased almond milk. This does not have a hashgacha for Pesach, is not recommended for adults, is recommended for children or those who are allowed to eat kit meals. There's a problem of machinery. We have to be careful. I've listed a number of them that are good, but many have an issue that oat milk, which has become very popular, is produced hot on the same machinery. So we have to be careful about the type of almond or whatever we're using, that it is rice and so on for little kids or for infirm, but that it doesn't have hummocks in it, obviously. So that there are many types that are available. As far as a creamer, there are many. There's coconut milk and almond milk that are kosher LePesach, both have an OUP, each type, and those, of course, are fine for any. There are more and more types of products, in particular canned ones, and again, not a Shemitah issue, like this one, this is Kutzat Yavne, and this is pickles. It has on the one side a hashgacha from the badatz, and it says badatz lo Pesach, that it is not for Pesach, this product. On the other side, it says OUP. Typically, people look at this and wonder, I guess the OU is going down. Has nothing to do with that. The badatz that go to Sabai, the badatz in there, so many of the types are very makbid to be hugging. They have a minute, for instance, not to garlic, period. Why? Because they had once in history in Yerushalayim a problem with garlic. They have other things they won't use, like we said, the oils, the cottonseed oil. So that's their minhag. And they're real happy that for the OU to come in and to know, because it's not their minhag. But it is not an argument. It is reliably certified, perfectly fine for a person to use. When it comes, here's a during the year certified product, the Martinelli's sparkling cider and apple juice that is KSA certified. It certainly is not for Pesach. When it comes to apples, even cut up apples in the store, the problem with the apple is as soon as you cut it, it starts to oxidize. It starts to turn brown. The way to stop that is with citric acid, something that often is derived from wheat, so that it can actually have hummocks on it. You'll find these things are during the year just fine. But when it comes to Pesach, they need a good hashgacha that wheat was not used on it and that one can do it. If someone wants to be machmir. Most toothpastes are okay as a toothpaste, but they're not food. But on the other hand, Colgate doesn't have any products in it that are not kosher. Many have a glycerin that is not kosher. Some have bones, and they're not. There are reasons why those things are kosher anyway. But if somebody wants it, the Colgate and the Colgate mouthwash is fine. Scope as well is fine for Pesach and all year. The real lemon, real lime, the name of the product, real lemon, real lime, have a plain OU. They are fine without more than that. They don't need it. Eggs. We have many eggs today that all sorts of with many hashgachos on them, and some will say with vitamin E added and other things. Someone asked, how about the if there's a dye on it, a number on the eggs, is that ink kosher and so on? All the eggs are fine. They are fine. Eggs, there is a minhag that to buy eggs before Pesach, but that's not exactly the way it sounds. That the idea is to get the eggs when they are not rolling in wheat or things that are being thrown out into the outside, into the barnyard, and the eggs will roll in it. First of all, that's not the way we're getting eggs today, unless the person goes to a farm. Today we're getting it that the chickens are in their coops and the egg comes down on a clean chute and then they wash it. So that, but even on the minhag, that's only that the egg should be laid before Pesach. That doesn't mean that they're bought before Pesach, it means they're laid before Pesach. So they weren't involved at all in any chametz, and bittul could take hold. Well, the stuff we're getting is many days after the eggs were laid. They don't come instantaneously. We don't even live near any farms. And therefore, we have easily into Chol Hamoed or towards the end of Chol Hamoed when that minhag would even kick in. Same is true of milk. Milk, this is one should get milk because milk has a vitamin D usually added to it, and that could be a chametz even, usually kitnios, but it's 2 parts per million. And before Pesach, that's easily bottled. So we get it before. Again, it's not that we have to own it and buy it before Pesach. It means it was produced and bottled before Pesach. It is not, so we don't, if the fridge is full and we can't stuff it with milk, then the right thing is just go Chol Hamoed and shopping, and it's still going to be milk that was produced and bottled before, was not done that morning. Clean dental wax, the floss, dental floss is fine to use, and plain scouring and brushes and all this type of thing. These do not need or benefit from hashgacha. Honey does. Since honey has been used and adulterated so much, viciously so, in places like China, to the point where they've been found to have 0 honey, even though they write on it honey, and all corn syrup. So unless a person knows, such as a beehive, or that it is pure, any way the person can determine that it readjusts, the word pure doesn't do it. It would have to be that it is raw, unfiltered, and that it is from a hive that a person knows that there was nothing involved with it, then that would be okay. Otherwise, not. There are a couple of sites like koshervitamins.com that during this time add many things, many products to their list. And if you're looking for something like plantain flour or a pecan flour and so on, they do have it. This product does surprise me. It's a stripes with a Chaf K on it, and it says kosher Pesach. It is egg matzah, though, and it says on it according to Shulchan Aruch, egg must be made only by infirm, aged, or children. So in the back. So if a person reads everything on the back, eventually you'll find out that this product is very restricted coffee alternatives, by the way. Look out for, like this is Roma, Postum, different things that are coffee alternatives are quite serious that they actually have chametz. They're complete regular grains of chametz, and one has to be very careful for it. There's this product is the Yehuda gluten-free matzah style, very kosher for Pesach, very kosher for Sukkot, eating out of the sukkah, but it's not at all kosher, of course, for saying hamotzi on. It's a shahakol. So one has to be careful not to use it in place of a matzah at any time. There are many, many products now made for Sephardi. Baruch Hashem, the producers have woken up that there are many Sephardi who eat kosher Pesach, and there are many in the United States. Eretz is a bit of a majority of Sephardi. So they, of course, for years have been doing products like kitnios and labeling and such. Now, the OU, the OK, the Star K have many products to benefit those Sephardi kitnios. And that may be a benefit to someone, even a Nazi, who needs the kitnios for whatever health reason. There are rice cakes, corn flour. The OU's line is kidney for their products. There are many of them, including rice. It's not true that Sephardi eat rice. Sephardi eat rice after checking. 3 times, the Shulchan Aruch says, to check it. So there's rice with additives that can be chametz. That's why the Stark in particular has a nice list of different rice without the additives that are not an issue, but one needs to be careful if one asks a shayla. One should always ask a shayla. You can ask the Rav about for medication and so on, what really is the issue. And it's like someone who asked me on Erev Shabbos about a certain halacha that would involve Chilul Shabbos. But it was right after having a stroke. And the person wanted to know if one person should do it or another person should do it. So I answered that very simply depends who wants to chop the mitzvah, who's going to get the mitzvah of a chayil b'hem first. And so we have to always remember in medication to ask a shayla not to do what sometimes people feel. Now I'm machmir, not taking medication. Sometimes that's against what the Torah is saying. That's not a chumrah, but it's far from it. So one always has to be careful with those. The soap, the pure soaps are not an issue for Pesach. Some things odd, and I've listed a few of them, like the modeling clay from Crayola and Play-Doh has always been so, that they are a chametz gomer, and they're edible. Since they're made for little children, they're actually made in a way that they're edible. So one has to be very careful not to have those. A couple of pastes are like that, and so most are not, but some of them do. Fox's new bed syrup went already a couple of years to the OU, and that of course is a fine product. I think that's the majority. When you're looking at the Star K, you'll see this, a star SP. The star S means star Sephardi, and it is P that it was acceptable for Pesach. Okay, Rabbi, if you have some questions, I'm fine with the questions. Hello? Are there any questions?
The chat box is full of everyone's questions. I'm not sure.
Oh, so if what I've done before is someone reads the questions. Someone could just take the questions and read them.
Okay. I don't know if Rabbi Muskin is available. I don't mind if you want me to just start.
Perhaps if you could start, yes.
Okay. So the first question on here is Florida's natural grapefruit juice okay for Pesach? I guess it has an OU, but not a P.
The frozen ones, frozen orange juice and grapefruit, frozen citruses without additives are fine. Once they're processed, they are often processed on machinery that cause some difficulty. There are a few companies that are certified for Pesach. I would recommend sticking to those and not getting the ones otherwise. But frozen is perfectly fine.
Okay, the next question is whether compostable paper plates are okay.
Which kind? I mean, you were saying just a paper plate?
A compostable paper plate. I would assume that's okay.
Paper plate is absolutely fine. Yes.
Okay, the next question is the Pompeian grapeseed oil apparently now has an OU, not the star K. Is it still good for Pesach?
That's correct. Yes, thank you for reminding me. Nothing has changed. It remains fine.
Okay. Are Costco salmon, I'm assuming frozen, salmon, tilapia, and sea bass all kosher for Pesach? Do they have to be washed before?
But some are called Costco, some are called Kirkland, but all of the regular ones, meaning they're uncoated, they're just frozen tilapia, frozen salmon, and so on, those are fine. There were a couple of them, again, if you could look, the ones I've listed that are preferable to wash. The question is, there's a glaze sometimes put on it, and therefore it's better to wash it before use. But that would be the only thing. Otherwise, yes, the answer is they are fine.
Okay. Where's the next one? Can whole peppercorns be used without a Pesach hashgacha?
Absolutely, from any company.
Okay. Is peeled garlic okay?
It's debatable. Many of the cautious agencies recommend not to. If it's just peeled garlic, the truth is halakhically it's okay, but the Star K and a number of others are quite strongly against it. It's if a person has a choice, I'd recommend getting with a P. That one's worth it. If it was used on something, don't worry about it.
Okay. Oh, just so we're
okay. I think that one.
Sorry, it's just to be clear, we're talking about the fresh peeled garlic cloves.
Oh, fresh. Yes, they're processed. No, we're only talking about fresh. But the fresh ones, it's just the question about the machinery. It's unsupervised. It's better to use with hashgacha, but again, halakhically, it's okay with them.
Okay. Someone wrote here, savory spice as a pure powder or just leaves, Sadaf brand?
Yes, the leaves are okay. Not the powder, but the leaves. The powder needs hashgacha, but the leaves are okay.
Okay, somebody wrote here, Kirkland almonds are steam pasteurized. Is that a problem for Pesach?
Good question. No.
Okay. Madeline, I'm not sure if maybe your mic, you're not muted. Something, I'm getting some weird feedback from you, just so you know. Okay, a question about frozen chopped onions or fresh chopped onions.
Both should be used with hashgacha for Pesach due to machinery.
Okay, someone is asking, do all spices, I'm assuming that means ground spices, do all ground spices need a Pesach hashgacha?
Yes.
Okay. Someone's asking if you know of any source for caffeine-free diet or regular Coke.
Yes, in New York, which perhaps if a person would ask now in one of the larger stores, they could still bring it in.
Okay. Is Reynolds torn parchment paper with an OU okay for Pesach?
Absolutely, yes.
Does safflower oil require a Pesach hashgacha?
Yes, it is. It's not for Pesach. We do not.
Okay. Someone asked here, is chocolate spread from Israel okay for Pesach? I assume that depends on the hashgacha on the individual.
It's a good question because it's confusing. You have to look very carefully. But yes, the answer is, as you said, it does need a good hashgacha on it for Pesach. Some have contradictory. Want to look and see there's one, be it an OU or a star case, somebody who's giving a good hashgacha specifically for Pesach, or you can count on it that it will have kitnius in it.
Okay. To follow up, you had said, I guess someone else asked about chopped onions, fresh or frozen. Are they okay to be used year round without hashgacha?
Yes.
But you're saying for Pesach, they require a Pesach hashgacha?
For Pesach, due to the machinery now increasingly being used for other things, therefore, it is the proper thing to have hashgacha on it. But the added, it would be okay. But the right thing to do is to get with hashgacha.
Okay, so this maybe follows from that as well. According to the CRC, on their Ask CRC website, they state that all fresh, raw, and pre-washed bagged iceberg lettuce and other non-kitnios vegetables such as whole carrots and baby, shredded and sliced carrots, shredded cabbage and broccoli slaw are acceptable for Passover if they do not contain sensitive ingredients and are purchased before Pesach.
And that is their view, a very valid view, not shared by the OUOK and the STARK, but the CRC is outstanding. And if one wishes to rely on their view, they certainly have that right. Again, they're very well researched. There's a question about how much one wishes to be machmer on those, because it is often the wash will contain kitnios, but then the final wash does not. Is that sufficient or not? They're splitting hairs on it, but different opinions on it. But that is accurately saying what the CRC is saying. The CRC has a few things different than the other kosher agencies.
Okay, maybe a follow-up to that. Do you know if there's any riced cauliflower or I guess the riced cauliflower frozen from Costco and Trader Joe's are recommended year-round. Would that apply during Pesach or not?
Unfortunately not, for the same reason that the carrots that are frozen, I mean, once they blanch them in pasta equipment, then we're finished, we can't use it. So if the rice, cauliflower, the cauliflower rice and so on, in theory, should be outstanding, but it does need a good hashgacha that the wash does not contain chametz in it, which the other ones likely do. So it's accurate during the year, it can be used without hashgacha, but for Pesach, it would need a good hashgacha. I haven't seen yet anyone doing it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist in mine.
Okay, there's about 12 more. Is it possible maybe someone else could jump in and read the last few questions from the chat box?
Yes. Ground coffee, fresh, not in a can, anywhere to get for Pesach?
Yes, at home. You buy the beans in the grinder and grind it. The problem is, again, using the grinder in a store, there are other people who are grinding other things in there. So that ruins their grinder. Am I aware of any of our kosher stores that are grinding coffee? Sounds to me like a great idea for someone to do, I'm not aware of anyone doing it at this point.
Decaf ground Pete's
Still
coffee.
is to buy. People buy a cheap grinder and grind their own.
Decaf ground Pete's coffee. Is it okay?
Not the decaf, the regular.
Are milk and eggs bought before Pesach without any certification for Pesach okay to use?
Yes.
Are Tums okay?
Milk is still better to buy with a hashgach for Pesach. Most do not. And most buy just regular before Pesach. Both of them are good. As I had mentioned, both only need to be produced before Pesach and not bought before Pesach. Does that not have anything to do with our ownership, has to do when it was produced. So by Chol Hamoed, it's still going to be fine.
Are Tums okay for Pesach?
Oh, thank you for asking that one. It's being debated in the conscious agencies, but the white ones are certainly okay. There's some, the person gives hashgacha on them. The Diamond K is still looking at it, says he's not clear that there's no kidney. There is no chametz in it. There could be some kitnios in the flavored ones, but the unflavored, the white ones are certainly fine.
But that's a medication, so why would kitnios be a problem?
That it would only be a problem according to those who feel that that's a problem. According to the CRC, let's say, it would not be a problem. So if one holds that's a problem with medications, the problem with the Tums is they're kind of in between. They're chewable, one tastes it. One swallowed it, it certainly would not be an issue. But since one chews it and it acts like food, so therefore perhaps it would be. That's where the plain white ones really avoid all issues.
Okay. The Planet Oat milk is not okay for, this is worded very funny. I suppose it means, is Planet Oat milk okay for Pesach?
I don't understand the question.
I don't either. Then it goes on and says, oat milk needs a pee. What about Fairlife milk?
Which? I'm not familiar with it. Obviously, any chametz milk is chametz. So there's not, is that allowed? If someone's deathly ill, of course it's allowed. But if other than sachanas nefashos, then a person, of course, would not take any oatmeal thing.
So bottom line, so does oat milk need a hashgacha for Pesach?
Oat milk cannot be kosher for Pesach. That's where I'm not understanding. Oat milk cannot be kosher Pesach. It's the same as bread. Can bread have hashgacha for Pesach? No, and neither can oat milk have are allowed. Sure, if somebody is in a certain situation, bread might be okay, and then the oat milk is okay, but they travel hand in hand.
Okay, microgreen or other sprouts, extra fine white sugar. What's that? Microgreen or other sprouts? What does that mean?
I don't quite understand. Most sprouts are kosher Pesach. Some of them, wheatgrass and so on, we don't use. These may have been two questions put together. It doesn't work as one question, but
I don't know what they're doing here. Extra fine white sugar.
Fine, absolutely. Not white, not an issue.
Is there bagged lettuce with a hechsher available?
Yes, there's the very expensive RCC of some types. There's in the East Coast all over. Unfortunately, we're not getting a lot of it, but there's a small amount of Star K and OV with the hashgacha on it for Pesach. Very small amount.
Are any toothpaste
I'm sorry?
Are any toothpaste problematic for Pesach?
Yes. No, well, yes and no. Again, depends who you ask. If most folks can say no. Some feel that since it started out problematic, it could be. This is a question far beyond me to answer as far as medications, if it does or doesn't. The Rabbi Best puts out probably the best listing in the world of medications. The CRC opposes questioning medications. The OU and many of the other agencies are for it, because if it's optional, then one should use one without comments, and so on. Again, Colgate, Crest, the AIM, I've listed numerous ones that one doesn't have to come into this question. They're just unquestionably fine.
What about mouthwashes?
Mouthwash is a little bit worse, because mouthwash is something that's in the mouth and has a pleasant taste to it. But still, most don't consider it Michael, but it depends. The Listerine tabs are not good. Those for sure have kidneys in them. The Listerine mouthwash liquid, most are okay. A couple of them not. Again, I've listed, too many to list. The Scope, all of them are okay. Colgate, all types they make are okay. AIM was good. There are many of them are, but not all. I would suggest looking at the list and getting from those, and not entering the question as to whether it's considered a food, the way it's used, or whether it's considered a medicine.
Is agave okay?
Agave is okay, but again, there's a processing issue. The OU said that the maple syrup they certified are all fine. Its twin, the agave syrup, which is also used, they do not. They do not vouch for that. There is a process coming from a cacti. It has a process to make it, and they're not standing, no one is standing behind that without hashgacha. Adirondack makes one with an OKP.
Is almond flour okay from Costco?
Almond flour from Costco is okay. Yes.
Almond flour is okay from Costco? Okay. This person says they live in Israel. Can I use cottonseed oil now?
Well, again, that's the meaning of everywhere, but it depends on the minhag hamakom. If they find that Israel, Moshe has a tshuva, the United States does not have a minhag, because the United States is a conglomeration of many people with different minhagim. So there is no one minhag here, and one can't claim this is the minhag of the country. In Eretz Yisrael, they used to have, about 70 years ago, there was primarily some Talmudim of the Gra, Talmudim of the Chabad, were the biggest starters before the Medina became a Medina. But at this point, they're debating, the posting debate, is it like here, many minhagim or not? Ashkenazi Sephardi certainly are. As far as using cottonseed oil, most of the poskim will say that it depends on your minhag. So if it's his minhag to do it, he's not breaking a minhag that he accepted of not using cottonseed oil. Certainly the great poskim say it's not kidneys and therefore could be used.
So bottom line, cottonseed oil, that was
if he has not refrained conscientiously in past years from using it, then let's say he just moved from here and he uses cottonseed always, then he could continue doing it. Let's say he grew up in Israel, he's been to 10 years and he was told you can't use it. Then he would need a hataras nadarim to use it, because that became his minhag, even by accident.
Is raw unfiltered honey okay with OU certification?
Yes and no. The OU says not to use it. And the reality is, if it is from a beehive, then you know that it's raw and unfiltered, it's okay. but it's very hard to do that. It's sold even in realms where you have such a thing, but it's a dangerous area to go in. The word pure doesn't mean a whole lot when it comes to honey. It really has to be that it's a raw, unfiltered from the hive and not cooked, not processed. It's unprocessed and so on. It's just that it was bottled, then it's okay.
Spice, I don't know, this, it just says spices. Spices need a hashgacha, you said.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes, that it has spices. Well, yes and no. Spices, we said, that have been ground spices need hashgacha.
Does Listerine have non-kosher glycerin in it?
Now list some of them, not all. Some of them. Some of them do, yes.
Is Costco?
Soap does not, but listed there's some of them.
Is Costco tilapia and sea bass kosher even without a hashgacha?
That's no.
Without hashgacha? No, that would be treif. But without...
I was not, I don't know what this means.
Perhaps they meant without hashgacha for Pesach.
Yeah, that's what I assume they mean.
Yeah, that must be what they meant. So if it has, let's say, an OU on it, which it does, and it is not coded, that's fine for Pesach.
So what do you mean non-coded?
Non-coded meaning if it says breaded, even with hashgacha, obviously it's not going to be good. But
if it's just plain tilapia and sea bass with the OU, it's fine.
That is correct.
Okay. Nutritional supplements like magnesium, are they okay?
Magnesium's fine.
Magnesium. What about the other nutritional
There are
supplements?
over 1,000 supplements, so I can't answer to all of them. One should probably look at Rabbi Bess's book. He has, I've listed many of them, but not 1,000 of them. And one could look and then make a halachic decision whether it's warranted to use it or not.
Decaf Pete's whole bean or any other whole bean decaf, are they okay?
No, again, one has to know only the ones I've listed in the beans, about 10 or 12 of them. Those are okay. Normal decaf method involves alcohol, not chametz alcohol, and cannot be used for sure.
Can alfalfa sprouts be used?
Most allow it because they're just growing sprouts. Some have the minhag not to use it.
Does any romaine lettuce have hashgacha for Pesach?
No, but the Andy Boy stuff is I found to be the best. The Andy Boy or anything like that because that's hearts. It's Andy Boy hearts, and a person can then just wash those and check them for insects. Very easy on the one because again, it's the inner green ones that they're using, the smaller leaves. They throw away where most of the bugs are on the outer large leaves. So it'll cost more, but an awful lot less than anything else as far as getting the end product for the starting. And that's the one that I found to be the most practical for us to use.
And Teva, slightly processed OU packaged meat from Costco, is that okay?
I don't know what slightly processed means. Teva meat from Costco is kosher lepesach, whether it says so or not. Teva ground beef is kosher lepesach, whether it says so or not. But I've never heard the term slightly processed.
They says package says slightly processed.
Okay, I have no clue what that means, so I sure don't want to answer if there's some new type of thing. But I mean, they slightly cooked it. I don't know what they did, but raw Teva meat, and if they even chop of theirs, so the Teva is always kosher lepesach. The only thing Perhaps you've seen the alert that I sent out not long ago that someone was at a Costco, not in California, and found some of the Empire products that just said kosher and did not say hashgacha on them. And they asked the manager at Costco and said, yeah, they get in big boxes. Sometimes they get ones that are a little bit leaking. So they take them out, repackage them, and then put on a kosher. Obviously, we don't want to have repackaged. There is something else that I should mention about meat, and that is meat from a company is almost always kosher Pesach, no matter what it says. And I've listed many, but the common ones that we get, that's the way they do it. Meat repackaged in a store, one of our kosher stores, where they're cutting it, that not necessarily. They say they don't have the facilities to keep it separate, and they'll do chametz on the same cutting boards and so on, and same machinery. So that is up to the individual hashgacha.
So the chopped meat teva is okay, you're saying, package?
Yes.
Okay. We want to thank Rabbi Eidlitz very much for this wonderful presentation and having the patience to answer all these questions. Everybody should know there are copies of Rabbi Eidlitz's booklet in the shul, in the two holders where you can get flyers. There are copies there. And you can contact Rabbi Eidlitz via text, via emails, and he will try to respond as much as he can. Okay, thank you so much. And we will be posting the recording of this on the website. Thank you, Rabbi Eidlitz, and a chag kosher.
Thank you, Rabbi Eidlitz. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay. Everybody should have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.